Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Full complement of people doing football podcasting goodness today. Myself, Paul, Matt and Stu are going to talk about what happened in last week's games, and we're going to predict some games for you. We've got football news and anything else from the football world. If you're checking us out on YouTube, that's awesome. But if you could make that little click and subscribe, it'd be amazing. Likewise, if you're getting us just audio, you can still subscribe, and it does mean a lot. So, here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
You know what they say, when she's right, she's right. And by all accounts, she's right. Paul, do honours like.
No problem, Andrew. Yes, it's that time of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to another instalment of your weekly football of a round sort fix. We're here to talk all things Middlesbrough, Hull and Nottingham Forest. One of those might be slightly more involved than the other two, as there's been some goings on this week, but we'll come to that in a little minute. But yes, it's your as yet untitled football podcast. So
I like that name, to be honest.
I mean, we're like...
As yet untitled?
Ooh.
Got a ring to it.
We'll be getting a copyright claim from Dave, I think.
Well, we could borrow a page out of the Arrested Development book and just call it TBA.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think by the way that the teams are going, it might as well be called CBA at this point.
Very good, very good. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Obviously, that will be the way that Stuart's reacted to that is based on last week's results. So let's get into it, shall we? Should we go through last week's results? If we absolutely must. Hey, I'll tell you something. This must be the first podcast in a while where Matt's come positive, as opposed to the other two of us.
We say positive. Remember, I'm the pessimist, the ultimate pessimist in the whole thing.
So you'll again. We'll get to it in a little bit, but you'll manage to turn that into some sort of negative. I see. Interesting. But yes, so we'll go to the first game of the week, Andrew, which I believe was the live Sky Sports game involving Mr. Woodmansey's team.
Dude, it was. It's Hull City versus Sheffield United. A variety of different things were predicted here. I think the man who is best to tell us what happened is the man that predicted so heavily against his team, Stuart Woodmansey. What happened in the Hull City versus Sheffield United game?
Well, I did tell you they'd get spanked. And they got spanked. Except for, rather than, I think, what I predicted, it finished Hull City 1, Sheffield United 3. And Billy Sharp scored the first after about 17-ish minutes, I think. And then Egan scored twice. The goal for Hull was Keane Lewis Potter. Within the last 15 minutes as well, they did have a goal disallowed for offside. So there was a period of time where they, got 3 goals down and clearly thought maybe we should do something now. I mean, I don't know if I've ever played football before. Absolutely not the way to do it. But yeah, at least they actually sort of gave it a go. At least they scored. So Hull have now they've ended their goal drought of 10 plus hours. So I suppose we can take the positives there. But yeah, ultimately Sheffield United 3, Hull City 1.
I mean, to be fair, you did predict 4 goals in that game. So, not too bad. Yes, Stu is the only one of us that did actually manage to take any points out of goals. 4-0 was predicted. It does get you a point. Well, it was 0-4 to be fair. It does get you a point, and everybody else does not get a point. 2 draws and a Hull City win. Ain't no points, I'm afraid. For those of you who said any of the following, Lewis Potter, Paul, Sharp for 2, Stu, and Sharp for 1, Matt. Points all round. Obviously, this guy is allergic to points, so no points for me. Let's see if I can keep that one going for the rest of the week. So, unfortunately for Stu, his team did not win, but he did win that prediction. 2 points to you, sir. 1 for everybody else apart from me. Next, it's over to Huddersfield Town, and then taking on Nottingham Forest. And something went very wrong in this game, didn't it, Matt?
It is. We don't know what happened. The caretaker manager leaves with a 100% record after Forest win 2-0.
2-0.
Terriers.
It wasn't Gary Brazil either, was it? It was
Stephen Reid. Republic of Ireland's own Stephen Reid, who does not sound like he's from the Republic of Ireland.
Crazy.
He's apparently staying as well, but obviously we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, apparently he changed up the formation, went 3/5 at the back with wing backs kind of thing. Had Grabban and Tate, maybe not Grabban and Tate up front, but kind of old favourites in like Lolly as well. And, kind of apparently there was a lot more attacking to it and stuff like that. So Grabban with a diving header and an own goal by the goalkeeper to finish off the game. I think they tried to claim it as a Forest goal, but I think shithousery could be called on that one. But yeah, first win of the season. Still bottom.
But not for much longer.
But not for much longer.
Which we'll come to later on.
But yeah, it's always nice to get your first win of the season. See if it takes 8 games.
I'm laughing, but I'm crying on the inside because we're only 1 point above you, I think. So.
Oh.
Speaking of crying on the inside, Middlesbrough took on Blackpool.
Yeah,
hang on a minute. Sorry, I've skipped Ed. What a tit. Right, so, rewind, cut that bit out. We'll never hear of it again. Scores on the doors. Let's do that. Let's do the thing that we should normally do when we've got our heads screwed on properly. Right, Paul didn't even think Matt was in the room. Didn't give him a goal. For him, that was a good move because that did get him 1 point. That's where the points stopped. No other points in that game. Everybody else had, surprisingly, not Forest down to win. And it only there was only 2 Forest goal scorers predicted out of 4 predictions. So there we go.
Did you say I've got a point?
You predicted Forest to win. I don't know. I seem to remember something about they'll do it for the new guy.
What confused me was the fact that you said Matt wasn't in the room, so I didn't give him a goal. And I was like, eh?
Yeah, you didn't give him any goals, but you did.
Well, look on Paul's face. I thought we were going to have to get VAR out for the podcast then. So.
Yeah, I have not got it together this week. Everybody has an off week. I'm having an off life.
That's why Forest won.
Speaking of having an off week, Middlesbrough versus Blackpool. Paul?
Can we,
skip this one.
Is there a way that you can just ignore results when you see the goals that you concede and you work out that they're just so laughably bad that you'd be embarrassed to concede them in a five-a-side kickabout?
No, those are the ones that you're supposed to get double points on.
Ah, I see.
I thought that was
Twice
the point
as
you realised
bad.
you had a season ticket at Borough.
God, can you imagine? Oh. The double punishment that comes with, yes, you're out 500 quid, and yes, unfortunately, mate, your team's fucking shit. So, and it's cost you 2 hours of your life you're not getting back. There, triple whammy. Thanks very much.
Plus travel.
You probably bought a pie, quadruple whammy. You've got to sit in traffic to get out of the city or the town. Quintuple whammy. we could just keep going, I suppose.
In my experience, it's not football unless you're eating a cold pie and drinking a warm Coke.
Seriously, that shouldn't happen anymore though, because sadly, Bootham Crescent is RIP, no more. So that world's hottest fridge is no longer in service.
I've never had a more confusing experience in my life than eating a cold pie and washing it down with a piping hot Diet Coke.
It was worrying. Obviously, for you, it was a veggie pasty or whatever it was, wasn't it? It was some sort of. I'll be the first to hold my hands up. Amazed that York offered a vegetarian option.
What's happened there is they've gone, oh shit, lad, someone's asked for the vegetarian pie. We better defrost it, and then
the one vegetarian pie they had in the place.
They could have put it next to the Coke to defrost it anyway. The heat coming off it would
exactly. It's either that or they've adopted the principle of, well, hang on a minute, it's a pie that you get in the football. There's absolutely no chance of there being any actual meat in this. So, but yeah, that was a confusing day. It was obviously a pre-season friendly. It was July, so pretty warm, and yeah, the fact that the drink was the warmest item on show was.
I said to her, I was like,
cool you down in July.
Here, love, take that Coke and stick it in the oven. Take that pie and stick it in the fridge, and we'll be on to something here. Anyway, York City is not on the docket, but Middlesbrough football is.
Yeah, very, very bad. Took the lead in the first half with a Marcus Tavernier goal, and then in the second half, conceded a dubious free kick, according to Middlesbrough Twitter, Middlesbrough commentary, all the Middlesbrough-based people that I follow on Twitter, etc., etc. So it probably was a free kick. It was absolutely fine. But Blackpool scored from the free kick when their guy just turned Dale Fry as if he wasn't there. So weak defending, should never concede from that particular space. And the second was an own goal. I don't know who scored the Blackpool goal. I'd have to look it up.
Don't say that.
Slightly odd name.
That's. I'm like, Paul will take care of the name. I'm covered on this one. I couldn't even write it down.
Marvin Ekpiteta.
I might have got there.
I'm going to put it up there. It's probably going to go on the list of names when Amy finds out about it. So, but yeah, he scored the opener for Blackpool, and then just to sort of complete the banter section of the day, Blackpool's winner came from a corner that Grant Hall decided to just head into his own net. So, cheers, Grant. Didn't want to enjoy my Saturday evening. It's fine. You just carry on, son.
You know me, I don't like to be that guy, but it's about to get a little bit worse.
Oh, no.
It wasn't a draw.
All three of you predicted a Grant Hall own goal. That's incredible.
No, it wasn't a draw. So no points for you there, Paul. You did not get the goal scorers either. Stu, Middlesbrough did not win, and your goal scorer did not score. Matt, same for you, I'm afraid. For me, Middlesbrough did not win. But Tavernier did score, so it's point for the big man.
Back started.
So, point-laden week. With a tie. 2-2-1-1. Some kind of weird football formation. Paul and Stu tie with 2 points apiece. And me and Matt tie for joint second, if you want to look at it that way. 1 point apiece.
Because it's a tiebreaker, does Stu take the win on the most depressing home performance?
Mate, you got beat by Blackpool. I think you win.
Oh, touche.
So, gentlemen, in record time, the book has been updated to cover this week's games. Personally, I've adopted a new method for this week because there are, in fact, 6 games to predict. I've decided on a little bit of monkey business, but we'll get to that later. First game of the week. I'm reliably informed. I can't even say I did my own game research this week. I had my glamorous secretary do the job for me. First game of the week is Reading taking on the once mighty Middlesbrough. Paul, you will predict last. I have already predicted in my new predicting way. So, Stu and or Matt, who wants to go first? Stu looks engaged. He looks ready, poised, like a tiger of sorts.
I have got mine prepared, so you'll spot a theme throughout mine by the time that we get to the end. But I have gone for a Reading 2, Middlesbrough 1 result.
Known as a cookie classic. Goal scorers.
So for the Borough, I've gone for Sporar.
Okay.
And for Reading, I have gone for Swift and Junior Hoylett.
Lovely stuff. Matt.
I've also gone for 2-1 to Reading. Get ready for this one. Swift. And here we go. Ijaria for Reading and Crooks for Middlesbrough.
So, you'll like this. 1-0 to Middlesbrough. And he's not steered me wrong yet, so Tavernier to get another one. Paul's like, put me down for the same, yeah?
Well, it's typical, isn't it? So obviously they got beat at home by a team that's really really terrible. Most people will expect Reading to get the win. You've put Borough down to win. They've put Reading down to win. So why don't I cover all the bases and just go for a 0-0 draw? Seriously, like it's 0-0 just makes the most sense to me here because it's a standard like Warnock tactic of they've absolutely shit the bed the last time they played. So just go back to basics, try and keep it tight. If you can nick one on the counter, brilliant, but just don't concede. And I reckon that's what he'll want to just sort of get them back to sort of a base level. So I reckon it's not good. Let's put it this way. If you don't support either of the two teams, don't tune into this one because it's not going to be pretty.
5-4 then.
A bloodbath, you say? Interesting. Second game of the week is Nottingham Forest. I was going to say something there, but I didn't want to spoil anything. Versus Millwall. Matt, you will predict last. Stu, Paul, any takers?
I'll have a little go on this one, since I was last to go in the last round.
Absolutely.
Well, as we sort of alluded to earlier in the podcast, the empty managerial vacancy has now been filled at Nottingham Forest. As Matt said there, the caretaker boss will retire with a 100% record, as ex-Swansea manager Steve Cooper was appointed the new manager earlier on today. So, new manager normally comes with a little bit of a bounce, so to speak. So I'll go for a 2-0 win. Please.
Goal scorers.
Grabs. Bollocks to it. 2 grabs.
Back at your rightful place.
Impressing the new boss, eh? I like it. I
What
like
I've done
it.
is I've channeled my inner James Panas, and I've now got him to be on for 85 goals this season.
I'll drop in mine so that I'm not always grazing on other people's lovely, tasty predictions. I've also gone with the new manager. Let's impress the boss. A 1-0 victory to Nottingham Forest. Yates to score.
Shit out.
I mean, after he's kicked about 5 in the River Trent, but yeah.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, he won't be scoring first. He'll be getting his customary yellow card first. So,
Stu?
You got enough stamps for a free coffee yet? Or is that I, as if by some kind of weird, crazy magic, because all of mine are written down beforehand, have sort of mashed the two together and gone with a 1-0 Forest win with Graben to score.
Very interesting.
I cannot wait to hear this prediction of Forest 0, Millwall 7. I suppose.
Well,
I've gone with the new manager bounce and the kind of burgeoning light of optimism. I've gone 2-1 for Forest.
really?
Where is Matt and what have you done with him?
What do they do to you? They'll lose 3-1 now. And it'll just be like, fucking hell, yeah, like Millwall and all, yeah, that kind of thing. Of course we lose to Millwall. We always lose to Millwall. And that tune in for that next week, folks.
Not this time.
So yeah, 2-1 to Forest. Johnson and Spence.
Oh, Jed.
Middlesbrough zone.
Hey, I tell you something, he was getting rave reviews on Saturday by Saturday.
Yeah. And Wallace to score for Millwall.
Fantastic. Our third and final we've still got 3 more games to predict, but, final for the start of the week is Stoke versus Hull. Stu, you will predict last, and as I've gone all over the shop, I'm going to start things off with a bang. Stoke 0, Hull 1. Wilkes to score. Now, if anybody's keeping any track of anything that's going on, there might be some similarities there. Stay tuned for the second set of predictions. Matt, as Paul is on mute right now, how about you give us a score prediction?
I've gone for 2-1 to Stoke.
Okay.
Sturridge and Powell scoring the Stoke goals.
Mm-hmm.
And for Hull, does he like jam on his toast? No, he likes funny man.
Oh, good God.
I love it.
Oh, my.
Paul.
Lovely. 1-0 Stoke.
Okay.
And I predicted him earlier in the season when they played Forest, so I'm going to go for Timon to score.
Lovely stuff. Stu, thoughts?
You're all far too optimistic. Stoke 2, City 0. And because Sarah wrote down my predictions earlier, because I had time on my hands, I have also predicted time on. And another old boy, let's stick to that role, fully fledged, Clucas.
Bit of a free-for-all for ex-Hull players in this one, isn't it? Tom
Well,
Ince is there as well.
Yeah, I know that almost swayed me to a 3-0 prediction. I'm ashamed to say, but I was like, we'll see. But yeah, it basically, yeah. If they've had a text off Daniel Ayala going, hey, well, look what I did, and might be able to join the club.
So, half the week predicted already. Half the week to go. We're doubling back round, going back on ourselves with Hull versus Blackpool. Blackpool, fresh off another game they played recently. As is the way, Stu, you will go last. Matt.
I've gone 0-2 to Blackpool. And I've gone Yates and Bowler.
Lovely stuff. I have gone 1-0 to Blackpool. I've also gone with Yates. Paul.
One.
Okay.
Lewis Potter.
Obviously.
Is it possible to transport Grant Hall to Hull for a game so he can score an own goal for Blackpool again?
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Okay. Stick me down for Yates.
Lovely. Go on, Stu.
I actually agree with Paul. I'm being optimistic. I don't think we'll lose that game. Especially, I can't give the lad stick for his team getting beat by Blackpool and then predict them to beat Hull as well, can I? So, I'm going to go Hull 1, Blackpool 1. I'm going to go Wilkes to score the Hull goal, and I'm going for Keogh to score the Blackpool goal.
Lovely.
Is that ex-Derby man himself?
Ex-Scunthorpe name. It's a name I associate with Scunthorpe, which is
Right.
why I picked it.
So, Middlesbrough are taking on Sheffield. I'm going to go United. Let's go with that. That's all I've got written down. Obviously, Paul, you're going last. Should I go? Do you think I should go? I should go.
Yeah, go on.
I should go.
Drop it.
Middlesbrough 0. Sheffield 1. Sharp to score. Matt.
I've gone 1-2 or 2-1 to Sheffield United.
Mm-hmm. Pitsu
for Borough, and Billy Sharp and Gibbs White with the goals. And annoyingly, they seem to have turned a bit of a corner, Sheffield United. Thumping Peter 6-2 kind of helps things.
Yep, and then come into Hull.
Stu?
I have gone with the same scoreline: Middlesbrough 1, Sheffield United 2, and that now, if that happens, if both my predictions come in, that now makes 3 games on the spin where that scoreline will have come in, because, consistent if nothing else. So I've also gone for Sporra for the Borough goals. Sporra, no idea if that's the correct pronunciation. And Sheffield United, I've gone for Billy Sharp and Hurahan.
Go on then, Paul.
We don't seem... We seem to have a decent record against Sheffield United at the Riv. So they say all records are there to be broken, don't they? Yeah, stick me down for a 0-3. It's his ex-team as well, isn't it? So they'll probably up their game just to sort of really stick it to him.
Is there anybody left, though, from...
What, when he managed them?
Mm.
Oh, God, no. I think, he was the manager in, 2007 or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a bit, it's more on the fans than it is on the players, isn't it, that?
Yeah, so... But, yeah, sadly, Billy Sharp's come back into, he's woken up and realised that he's a championship player again, so he can score goals now. So stick him down for 1. I still think McBurney's going to score, because he's the sort of, annoyingly bad player who only ever seems to score against your team. And stuff like that. And just for the banter, let's go for a Grant Hall own goal, shall we?
Class.
Here's a classic one. When I was watching the game on Saturday, when they were doing the punditry afterwards, apparently they have £15 million worth of striker on the bench, and brought up McBurney. I'm like, I've seen that guy play. That guy's not £15 million worth of player. And then they shoehorn somebody else in with it. I'm like, even if you put them together, that guy's still not making up some amount of the £15 million player.
If you look at some of the money they've spent on some of their players, so there was 15 million or 20 million for it. Then they spent 28 or so, whatever it was, on Brewster, and he is garbage. He is awful.
No wonder they went down.
Yeah. Terrible.
Our final game of the week is Barnsley versus Nottingham Forest. Stu.
I have gone for Barnsley 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Woodrow to score for Barnsley, and as Paul rightly pointed out, is now going to score every goal in the history of Nottingham Forest for the rest of the season. Grabban.
Lovely stuff. I've gone with a Barnsley 1-0. I've written a name down and then gone, I don't know if I can actually pronounce this name. Adebayo.
Adebayo?
Yeah, that's
it our old boy. Is he there now?
I'm sure somebody's going to play. He doesn't even play for them anymore, but that's what I've gone with. So there's that. Paul.
Yes. Oh no, it's a different guy to who you think it is. It's not Moses. It's Victor.
Okay.
Adebayo or something like that, I believe. Is that right? Is that who you've gone for?
Yeah.
So I've actually, as previously mentioned a few minutes ago by myself, I've actually texted the aforementioned Mr. Panas about this game, as Barnsley is well within striking distance of this town / city. So we're going to try and go to this game, because I've dragged him along to many a Borough away game, so I feel it's time for me to reciprocate the favour, so to speak, and take one for the team and go watch a Forest away game with him. So hopefully I'm going to go optimistic and say that I'll be seeing a 0-1 Forest win. And I will be in the vicinity of a casual lolly banger.
Interesting. Matt.
I've gone with the same score as Mr. Williams. I've gone 0-1 for Forest. And the man with 100 goals, Lewis Graben.
Lewis Graben.
I feel like I'm obligated to ask, but are you feeling all right? You've predicted 2 games and given your team 6 points here.
You know, you've got to have a little bit of optimism, haven't you, kind of thing?
No, you don't. You never have a little bit of optimism.
It's fine. They're going to go on a tear.
Give me a week of it, and then it'll all be shit and thunder next week. Like, oh yeah, I should have known it. We nicked the CEO off them anyway, so of course they're going to be pissed off with us. And of course we always lose to Middlesbrough, to Millwall, fucking bastards. So it's fine. Just give me a week.
just let him have it. They're going to go on a tear. Once they get to 17th, they'll stop. But for now, they'll be fine.
And then we'll do this all again next year.
That, as they say in the business, is that. All games now predicted and in the book, and will soon be in the history books. But until then, stay tuned to find out what all of these wonderful teams are going to do over the weekend and the coming week. So, that's the last week's predictions sorted, and this week's predictions sorted. Doing things a little bit different this season, aren't we? So, the news comes later in the podcast. So, this week in football looks a lot like this.
Where to start? So many.
Do we start with the sadder news and end with the more positive?
Yes.
Or do we end on a downer?
No.
I think end on the downer, but because I think it sounds positive because it celebrate a life and
that's a good point.
Celebrate somebody who should be celebrated. I think
absolutely, I'd agree with that, Mr. Moore. In that case, we mentioned it earlier that Forest have obviously brought in a new manager, so I probably feels right to dictate to or defer to the Forest fan. Happy, sad, not really sort of any emotion, or are you going to wait and see?
I think it's one of these things I think kind of reading the stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. You kind of all the Swansea fans, good luck watching shit football. And I think if you if you messaged anybody in the Championship, is anybody ever happy with their manager? I think it's one of them leagues where being a negative manager gets you a job because it's don't lose as opposed to win.
Pragmatism seems to be the aim of the game, doesn't it? Let's put it that way.
But then there's one Forest fan replied, they gave us a right stuffing last season. And, maybe the season before that, I think, because obviously they all kind of rolled into one pretty quickly. Yeah. I think maybe the positive thing would be is that the managing director, the guy that's running football at the moment, wanted him, has apparently worked with him before at Swansea, but I gave you guys these stats, and I think it's shocking when you kind of look at it. So it's 14 managers in 10 years, that's permanent managers as well. That's not taking into account interim managers, caretaker managers, dog walking by that just stuck a manager's hat on for 5 seconds because they thought maybe he'll come up with something. And then this one killed me. I think I heard it on Saturday. this is just after they'd sacked Houghton. So before they'd even gone Stephen Reed as the caretaker manager and then appointing Steve Cooper. So now, since Brian Clough left in 1993, so 18 years of being the manager at Forest, we've now had 37 different managers, including kind of caretakers and interims. So in less than 30 years, we've had 37 different people running the club. And it just shows, in some of those people, Frank Clark had a good 3-4 years at Forest. Platt got 2 yees. There's Billy Davis had a good few years in there as well. So there's some when I spoke to my dad about it, he's like, well, O'Driscoll was there for a month or so. Alex McLeish was 8 weeks, if that. Mark Warburton barely made it till Christmas. Pierce barely made it to February. There's that. It's just turnovers.
How long did McLaren get? Because was McLaren a 6-month?
God, that wasn't very long either. It's just this kind of, I can't think if that was a Fawaz kind of Uncle Fawaz coming in and running it like playing champ manager or something like that, and then the kind of Marinakis is running it, and he's running it but I presume he runs Olympiacos, where the head coach is expendable. They've got people that they listen to who know jack shit about football. That's always fiddling, and this is the problem: is that kind of reading stuff and listening to stuff around Forest. There's a lot of people sticking their nose in at all levels of the club. So there's this. I can't think what his name is. He's been made a director of the club. And he's like, oh yeah, he's Marinakis, he's confidant kind of guy, and apparently every so often he'll go and stick his nose in the business. So it's why the guy who was at West Brom, who's now left to go somewhere else, that's why he left Forest after a few months, because they were telling him he would sign people they wanted in. That's why some of the managerial decisions have been a bit unusual, because they want yes men that are just going to play the formation that they want, and it's just for my own sanity, I hope he does well, but part of me just thinks, I joked about, I'll see you this time next year. Part of me is I genuinely think that by the end of the season, Cooper might have been thinking that he's going to be able to do it relatively his own way, or with somebody who's going to support him. And are both of those people still going to be at the club come September? Or are we moving on to another person kind of running the club from behind the scenes and taking on another manager who doesn't know how to... we've said it a million times before, but getting out of the Championship is a very, very specific skill. And it takes it takes a certain type of manager, and they very rarely come from off these shores. And I know it sounds a little bit Brexity, BNP kind of statement, but it's not meant as that. I think it's just a very difficult league to come out of, and playing pretty football will get you closer to the bottom than it does to the top.
I'd seen that you said about getting out of the division and stuff. It was him that took Swansea to the playoffs, wasn't it? So I suppose if take that as a positive. Not the division, but he's obviously won stuff as well as England under 17s manager, winning the World Cup, which at that level is kind of a, you quite happily have that on your CV. But it's that age-old thing. He's got to take the time, but I think more importantly, you need somebody to break that cycle now. We've talked about it on here before. Obviously, we've talked about it again about how many managers you've had in recent times. Surely that needs to just settle down and get a period of stability. Otherwise, nothing's ever going to change. When you mentioned it, I knew I'd seen it earlier today when I was looking up the stuff after he got appointed. And you mentioned Alex McLeish. He got 7 games in charge. Alex McLeish, the longest one in the last 10 years. Was Billy Davis, and there was only really kind of a few who got close to that. Dougie Freedman was 2 behind Billy Davis, but other than that, they were all less. So, yeah, I hope for the club's sake and certainly for your sake, they settle down a bit and actually can push on now.
I think if the guy that they brought in from Barnsley is allowed to run the club like he wants to, and it's a bit kind of Moneyball, stats led analysis, and kind of they tried to cut the age of the squad, they tried to cut the squad down. If he's allowed to do, and it's the greatest false dawn that any football fan ever hears, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, we've got a 5-year plan, we've got somebody in, 5-year plan, Drew, we're not going to rush things. 10 months in, what? We're not winning? All right, well, okay, you said a 5-year plan. I don't know, you don't want your club to get relegated, but if you're going to sign up to a 5-year plan, follow it through, because you're going to end up chopping and changing, and then another 5-year plan starts, and then another 5-year plan starts, and then what you realise is that you've had 10 1-year plans that have resulted in you still being as shit as you were 10 years ago, and with a squad that's so bloated that nobody actually knows whether it's 40 or 50 players that are in there, and they don't know what to do with them because they're just on ridiculous wages. So fingers crossed that they're given the time to do it. So hopefully they come in and there's like a level of turnaround and we move up the division, but also there's a kind of logical system to it. The signings that they've made are all young or on loan. I don't know when Graben's contract runs out, but I would suspect that won't be renewed, which is kind of worrying on one aspect. But as long as they go out and get a 15, 20 goal a season striker to replace him that's in that age bracket that they want, fine. But, I just hope that eventually, and it's not going to happen because I know what owners in football are like now. Just, you don't know anything, leave it alone. Just leave the people who know what they're doing to do it. And the clubs that do that, and Christ almighty, it's not very often. It's the one time someone let hear me praise Liverpool. Liverpool have done it the right way. Say what you want about them, but Liverpool have gone about it the right way. The Boston Red Sox owners that own them have left kind of Klopp and whoever to run the club and buy the players that they want. And they've run it responsibly. They haven't gone nuts this summer. And if you leave a club, if you leave people who know football to it, then they'll get it right. But if you keep on sticking your nose in with your lackeys and your it's my right hand man. Well, your right hand man's an idiot. He's not done anything right so far, and the club's no better off than when it was than when you bought it. So then, do whatever you want with him. Throw him in the Trent. I don't give a shit. Just don't have him around. Don't have him around the football club anymore.
Speaking of clubs being run properly, should we move on to some more delightful news that we've had this week? Matt's excited again. Look at him. So I'm sure Paul and Matt and you guys will probably have more stats on this than me, but I think it's pretty safe to say that Derby County are up shit creek without a paddle.
Well, we sort of, broke the news last week, didn't we? So that was towards the end of the podcast that there was a points deduction incoming. But not thankfully, because it's never nice to sort of wish bad times on a club. But when that club is as shady as Derby, then bring on the bad times. Obviously, So they've got a points deduction because of their dodgy dealings in relation to financial fair play and things like that. But it's got worse, hasn't it, Mr. Woodmansey?
Yeah, so didn't it start out as, was it 9 points? Or was it a 12 point with 3 of the points suspended or something to begin with?
I think it was 9 with 3 suspended.
That was it.
And then obviously the next thing's been tacked on the set as well.
So they've Was it a maximum deduction they could end up with of 21 points by the time it's all said and done? And some of it might be carried over to next season as well.
Yeah, I think so. So the precedent, I think, was set with Leeds, because when they went into administration, they tried to get around it and tried to cheat the system, so to speak, because they entered themselves into administration at a point in the season where it was physically impossible for them to save themselves from relegation. So they entered into administration with the thought being, we'll get the immediate points deduction, and then we can start from next season like with a clean slate and stuff. And the FA were like, no. That ain't how this works. You can have your points deduction for last season for trying to be devious and stuff like that. Here you go. Start the next season with minus 15 points. So of course Leeds had to get petty with it, and for that season's programme it was page minus 15, and in the squad list at the back of the programme, squad number minus 15 was the FA, and it was like, oh lads, this is why no one likes you. This is why everyone was absolutely pissing themselves when you got the 15-point deduction and stuff like that. And it's just like, we're so hard done to. I can't believe that we've had this point deduction. It's absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, well, maybe run your club a bit better, and you won't have to have these 15-point deductions put in and stuff like that. Maybe don't go into administration. You know, it's not very hard, is it? Just don't spend more than you're bringing in.
Well, by the time that the podcast airs, administration is set to be confirmed, which is when officially the 12 points will kick in. Just reading like some of the stuff that they still owe out though as well. So how long ago was Philip Cocu the manager?
Last season.
Yeah. So him and the backroom staff are still owed just the £5 million in compensation. It's just incredible. And then it's the 12 points for the going into administration, and then the 9 points to be added for the financial fair play business. So that's where the 21 comes. However, it does say that in addition, Derby could also be docked another 3 points if they fail to pay their players and staff this month, with payroll approaching next week. So strap yourselves in, boys.
And it'll escalate from there, because if they can't pay like the inland revenue and stuff like that, they'll just wind them up. And part of me's like, for all the kind of Derby fans that crowed on at Forest, and the way they crowed on, kind of went on at other people as well. When they signed Rooney, it was this big deal, and you're like, have you seen the MLS? He's not Wayne Rooney that was at Man United. He's barely Wayne Rooney that played a little bit at Everton after he finished at United. He's what you fully expected to happen with Wayne Rooney when he stopped playing professional football. He got fat and slow, like most of us would do if we weren't playing professional football and had to train every day. But it was this, we're getting Rooney. Yeah, all right, then how did that work out for you? It's just, you feel sorry. I feel sorry for the people that work there who aren't footballers. Yeah. I feel sorry for the people who kind of run the club on a day-to-day basis. That ticket sales, club shop, all that kind of thing. I feel sorry for those people, because they might not even be Derby fans. Some of them will be, but they're probably decent. They'll probably be decent people. The people that I don't feel sorry for are, I don't feel sorry for some of the players. I don't feel sorry for any of the people that own the club. I don't feel sorry for the people who kind of sat there and laughed at other clubs and crowed about other things. You just get stuff with that kind of thing, and it's people like, I hope they don't go to the wall. I'm like, well, if they do, then it's one of those things, isn't it?
Like you said, I was going to say about the same thing. Like, we've got personal experience of working for football clubs in our midst, and like it is the people who work in the shop and work on the ticket sales and all the rest of it that when things are going badly have to spend all day every day getting shit from the general public about it. It's not the people who sit in the office and make the decisions. So, and not only that, to be compounded with, you might not be able to pay your mortgage next month. Like, it is awful. And like, you know, certainly from a whole perspective, definitely been through that, and the sort of potential to have the club go out of business entirely, it's not fun at all. Like, I get the impression, especially with the way that they've been quite heavy-handed with the points deduction, that it's almost... They've had it happen in the past with like Leeds and stuff, and yes, they've given them deductions, but they've never really pushed it to its like the full limit. Whereas this time, I feel like that because Derby have really done wrong with the financial fair play stuff, they're definitely gonna absolutely throw them to the wolves with the points and everything just to make the point.
Well, the best thing is that the thing that when they were on about it on the radio, they were talking about. Like, they've talked about the effect of the pandemic on them and all this kind of thing. The best thing that they said, one of the best things, kind of, damning things that they said about them was, obviously they had the loan, didn't they, that you could have taken out? And their finances are that bad and that dodgy and that just messed up. They were like, no, you can't have a loan. So it's like, they couldn't, they probably could have gone to Wonga, and Wonga would have said no. And, it's just that they've been that badly run as a football club that even basically, not free money, but like, right, here's 8 million to kind of keep your club afloat. Which, to be fair, after they said they're hemorrhaging £1.5 million a month, that's not going to last them very long anyway. But they were told no because they were too much of a risk of never getting that money back. And shrewd decision, to be fair.
Yeah. Some breaking news off the back of this story as well is that they are set to receive an extra £100,000 off the back of a player that went from Derby to Liverpool, making his first appearance for the side in the Carabao Cup game that's happening this week. So Liverpool are playing Norwich, I believe.
Yeah.
And there's a kid called Cade Jordan. He's only 16, but as part of him making his first team appearance, hopefully you would hope that the money, like I say, will go to like the shop workers and the ticket office guys and girls and all the rest of it. But yeah, at least they're going to get £100,000 to try and stay afloat just off the back of that. So there is a little bit of light there. It might keep the lights on for another half an hour or so. I guess it's the last other bit of news now.
Yeah.
Paul, did you have the bit on this?
I can bring it up and stuff, but yeah. Excuse me. I think it was on Sunday, early hours of Sunday morning, or it was certainly announced on Sunday that
it was on Sunday.
Jimmy Greaves had passed away. Obviously, we were all too young to have seen him play. But obviously, when we were younger, he was more sort of recognised for being more of a TV personality than he was a footballer. They did some, like, I saw a few little bits on Sky Sports News after I'd finished watching the American football on Sunday, where they gave a little bit of a tribute to him and stuff like that, and it was talking about the fact that obviously he played, and before the World Cup in 1966, he was basically England's best player. Pretty much first like striker on the team sheet and stuff like that, and then he I was talking to my dad about this actually, and he got injured during the tournament. I think it was in the first game, and then obviously Jeff Hurst came in as a replacement for him, and he just couldn't dislodge him from the starting lineup because I think he was back fit for the later rounds of the tournament, but obviously just couldn't get in ahead of Jeff Hurst, and I don't know if this was before substitutes were a thing, or if it was that you could have one substitute during games. But yeah, sadly, he just couldn't get back in the team. So whilst he was a member of the squad that won the World Cup, he probably feels like he didn't contribute to it that much because he wasn't playing money of the games and stuff like that. But I think Matt gave us his like stats and stuff like that. Have you still got those to hand, Matt? Like
I was just
there's ratio stuff.
There's two things that goes there. So because he didn't play in the game, he didn't get a World Cup medal.
Oh right, okay.
So he didn't get a World Cup medal until 2009, which kind of looking at his like health issues, you're kind of like, God, he didn't even really get to enjoy having that medal kind of thing. But I think I don't know what his league goals I think is mental. So you kind of looking at it. You've got Chelsea. So he started at Chelsea in 1957, and he had 157 appearances for Chelsea with 124 goals. Then he went to AC Milan and only played 12 games but scored 9 goals. And then came back and played for the Spuds, which is probably the team he's most famous for playing for, and scored played 321 games and scored 220. So he's prolific there. But I think, like I said, it's when I said to you guys about it, the most frustrating thing is the. So he had 13 goals in 12 games for England under 23s. So, and then his England record is 44 goals in 57 games. And I think then if you look at all the other players that are around him, so like Lineker, you've got Lineker at 49, you've got, 48? So Lineker at 48, Charlton at 49, whatever Rooney finished on, and kind of whoever else, I don't think anybody else is up there right now. They've all got over 100 games for England. And he's, 5, 6, 7 short of everybody else on half the amount of games. And it's just at a time when people would just kick you in the air. Like Pele had, was it the 66 World Cup? Pele was just kicked out of the World Cup, and it was just kind of a brutal kind of time to play, and particularly if you were a skillful striker, because they just knock the living daylights out of you. And I think that we said, we kind of talked about this punditry, and it's kind of funny because it gets lost in the kind of wash of it. I think him and Ian St. John as well. It was that kind of beginning of that kind of ex-player led TV show that kind of did a good bit of diagnosis and analysis, but also had a bit of fun with it as well.
Yes.
I remember watching them as a youngster. I remember him more definitely from the TV side of things. And since the unfortunate news on Sunday, I've seen a few clips floating around, and like as a kid, wouldn't have appreciated like the because obviously they were doing this on like daytime slot on the TV as well, but like trying to get away with like stuff as well. And the clip that made me laugh the most, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm gonna. They were talking about betting against each other on sporting events, and they'd bet on a rugby match that finished in a draw. So like, well, we're going to have to roll it over now onto something else. And it was the weekend of the Oxford-Cambridge boat race. So they were deciding in this link on TV, live TV, who was going to have Oxford and who was going to have Cambridge. And Jimmy Greaves says at the end, he was like, it is a bit of a strange sport though, isn't it? Because, whichever is the winning team dips their cocks in the water. Which he got just to sneak that in on like live daytime TV. I saw that and I thought, yeah, quality. Really enjoyed that. It was funny.
I think it's along with that is obviously one of his famous quotes that kind of gets trotted out all the time. Is it's a funny old game, isn't it? That that's his quote, and it's kind of trotted out kind of all the time. Yeah, it's like a proper kind of geezer as well, kind of thing. I think when you kind of saw him and just loved football, but kind of was a proper geezer with it. Him and like Terry Venables was that kind of just loved being footballers and loved the life that came with it as well.
Yeah,
I know that, like, obviously Matt mentioned before about trying to find that 15 to 20 goal season striker. I wonder how many teams nowadays are take him in his prime on the basis that, like, I've seen it's 60 to 61 season playing for Chelsea. Yeah, just the 41 goals that season. And then when he moved to Spurs, to 62, 63, yeah, just the 37 goals that season. So he obviously, could have pulled his finger out for a few more that season. But Jesus, like, that's sort of, unless your name is Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm guessing that kind of total's never going to come around again in a single season. It's a lot.
And one of the best things, like, when someone's revered, and you kind of think, you kind of look at the peers, and Brian Clough played around a similar time to him. And he's like, let me tell you, I beat him to 200 league goals, and everyone had kind of failed to correct him in the fact that he was in the league below. But he was like, I beat Greasy to 200 goals, and it meant more to him than anything else that he did in football. The fact that he beat Jimmy Greaves, because he was that's how good a striker he was. I think that gets lost with the fact that most people nowadays, like we said, we remember him for the punditry side of it, as opposed to what an absolutely awesome striker he was. Yeah. I think that's, hopefully they'll do a few more. I've probably missed them because they'll be shown at some ridiculous time at night. And I think sometimes at this day and age where it's all about Premier League, anything that happened before the early 90s doesn't count. And you think, no, these people are ridiculous. If you said to, as a kid, I knew about people like Dixie Dean scoring 60 goals in a season, and then you hear about Jimmy Greaves, you hear about those kind of players that scored tons of goals in a season, and now it's like, well, yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo scored 35. Great, he played about 70 games. These guys were playing 40 games, maybe 50 games in terrible conditions, and they were doing it probably, sometimes with a job as well.
Yeah. Well, that would have been was that still at the time when the maximum wage was a thing and stuff like that?
Yeah, with Jimmy Hill.
Yeah. But yeah, sad. But obviously, he was in his 80s, so he'd had
done all right, yeah,
a long life and stuff like that. Obviously, he was unwell towards the end of his life, and he'd had a couple of strokes and things like that. But yeah, I think a sad miss, certainly.
Get him out of here. Oh, crap. Sorry.
There we go. Unfortunately, a little bit of a downer at the end, but still celebrating a footballer's life. Any other business, gentlemen?
Nothing from me.
I think Matt's got. Oh, no, don't know. In that case, I'm going to say thank you to all of you, even Matt, for joining me, taking these lovely people through the somewhat choppy waters of the football world. Tune in next week to find out just how many points I got from the predictions, and see how many games we've got to predict next week. Don't be that guy, Stu. Don't be that guy. Nobody likes that guy. I mean, you're probably right, but until next week, I'm going to say bye to these wonderful gentlemen and bye to you lovely, lovely people. Enjoy your games over the next few days and tune in next time to see, what's what. Thank you very much. Oh, there he is. Bye. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another week of games gone, and another week of games to look forward to. As I've previously said, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever. You can also jump over to thecookiecast.com, check out what we've got going on over there. It's just a little website, but it does have our social media links and our email link, so you can let us know how you're getting on. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.